to share thoughts that I have discovered in God's Word. And I'd like you to go back with me to Revelation chapter 10. Now, the interesting about Revelation chapter 10 is that it comes after Revelation chapter 9 and after Revelation chapter 8. Isn't it? Didn't you know that? Revelation chapter 10 comes after Revelation chapter 9 and after Revelation chapter 8. Now you might be wondering, why am I telling you that? So let's go back. Revelation chapter 10, and we find ourselves reading about an angel who comes down from heaven. Now, it's so interesting here that this angel, there's a debate about it. Who is it really? Some people say it's Gabriel. But it's not Gabriel. Who is it? If you look at this description here, so let's have a look at it. There's another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun and his legs were like fiery pillars. When you read that, it's very similar to the revelation that John has of Revelation chapter 1. And you'll see that John is, I would like you to look at it, Revelation chapter 1, and I want you to go to verse 12. And it says there, I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me, and when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And among the lampstands was someone like a son of man, which is like Jesus, dressed in a robe, reaching down to his feet with a golden sash around his chest. His hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes were like blazing fire. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace. And his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. Then it says, in his right hand. Did you notice that? The description here is given of Jesus, and then also it refers to something in his right hand. Now, in his right hand, there are 7 stars. And these 7 stars are 7 messages. And the interesting thing is, about every time we read about right hand, it's got to do with something that God is busy with. So go back to Revelation chapter 10. We see that it's a very similar thing. And then it says, he was holding a little scroll which lay open in his hand. So this angel has a scroll open in his hand. I want you just to look at this with me. Why is this so important? Go back to Revelation chapter 5. And I want you to notice that in Revelation chapter 5 verse 1 it says, then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. So here we have a scroll, but it's sealed with 7 seals. But here in Revelation 10, we find that the scroll is open. Do you understand? Then I want you to notice that while we look at this, a question is asked in verse 2. Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll? So a question is asked, who is worthy? The answer is given. Well, first of all, it says that there was but no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside it. But then it says, I wept and wept, because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. Then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. Now why? See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Now who are we introduced to there? The Lion of the tribe of Judah. We refer to Jesus as the King. And then it says, I looked and I saw a lamb, looking as if it had been slain. Now the picture is not the lion, but we have the lamb. And it looks like it's been slain. Now that's important because it's telling us that what we are looking at has already happened after the death of Christ, not before. So after the death of Christ, we see a lamb standing as if it had been slain at the center of the throne. It didn't say around the throne. It says at the center of the throne. That means it was standing on the throne. Now there's lots of things that I could draw your attention to, but in actual fact, it's the throne of God that he's standing on. But then it says, the lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, and I don't want to get into that, but I would like you to go and look, and it says there in verse 7, the last part, he went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. Who is the person that was sitting on the throne with the scroll initially? That's the Father. That's God the Father, okay? And it says he was holding the scroll in his right hand, but that the one who was worthy, which is the lamb that was slain, goes and takes the scroll out of his hand. But remember, what's wrong with the scroll? It's sealed. Then we read in chapter 6, verse 1, I watched as the lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. So the interesting thing is that in chapter 6, we find the lamb is the one who's opening. And who's the lamb? It's Jesus. He's the Lion of Judah. And he is opening the scroll. And then we find that when you open the scroll, we go through different dispensations of time. But then I want you to notice something. In Revelation chapter 8, I'm taking through a speed course now. But in Revelation chapter 8, verse 1, it says, when he opened the 7th seal. Now remember, I told you that it's so interesting that Revelation chapter 10 comes after Revelation 8 and 9. Why? Because you see, in Revelation chapter 8, we are told that the final seal is open. So what is it now happens to the scroll? The scroll now lies open in whose hand? Who has the scroll in his hand? The Lamb. Jesus, not the Father anymore. The Lamb was worthy to open up the scroll, and in the Lamb's hand he has now a scroll that is open. And when he opened the 7th seal, which means when he revealed it, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour, which I like to say is that now all of a sudden, for the first time in the history of the world, people are going to be looking on something that was hidden all the time. In actual fact, the people who lived prior to the Lamb being slain never had the privilege of looking at what's lying in the scroll. And the interesting thing is that the only people who are allowed to look at what's in the scroll are the people who are found in the end of the dispensations of time, which are you. Do you understand? Nobody in the history of the church ever had the privilege of looking at what is going on in the scroll, because it was the 7th seal was only opened up in the last dispensation of time. But the interesting thing is, what is written in the scroll, if you read in Ezekiel, it says that writing was found on both sides of the scroll, but it was writings of lament, mourning, and woe. So it's not actually good news that's found in the scroll, it's actually what God is about to do. Now I want you to notice, who had the scroll originally in his hand? The Father. The Father had taken time to write down something in a scroll. The Father. It's not the Son who's done it, it's the Father. And the Father had the scroll and he had sealed it. And this scroll could only be opened up in the last dispensation of time. It is finally opened in the last dispensation of time, and there is silence for about half an hour, which means that what is revealed is really horrific. It's not really, it's news that should make us tremble. It's news that when you read it, you should start wearing sackcloth and you should be in a state of mourning. You see, what I want you to understand is that this is the state that we should be in. Then it goes on to say, And I saw, now listen to this, 7 angels. We just had 7 stars who were the messengers to the 7 churches. Then we had the 7 seals, and now we have the 7 angels. And the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Now that's interesting. Now we have the scroll opened, and in the scroll we have information, and then all of a sudden we get messengers, because that's what angels are, and to each of them is given a particular message. Where does that message come from? It comes from the information on the scroll. And then we have, throughout Revelation, we have the first 5 trumpets blowing. And if you go and look at those trumpets, it's a very interesting kind of experience. And I want you to notice something that's important. That when you look at, say, the first angel, so look at that with me. The first angel, which is found recorded in verse 7, the first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. 1/3 of the earth was burned up, 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Now, can any of you tell me what that message is? That's a message. That's what the angels have been shouting, "Hey, everybody!" And he shouts, and we see, as we see there, there came hail and fire mingled with blood. I mean, I'm kind of intrigued. Why mingled with blood? What is hail and fire? I'm not going to get into that now, but I want you to know this is actually what is happening on planet Earth now. And actually what is happening on planet Earth now is the mystery of God. This is what has been revealed in the scroll for so long that is now open, and we see something that God is doing on planet Earth. We get to the 4th angel, and we read that the 4th angel sounded his trumpet. Sorry, it's only first 4 angels, not 5, I apologize. First 4 trumpets are revealed, and then it says there, the 4th angel sounded his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, 1/3 of stars. But if you read these, you'll find that they've got something that is common with plagues. So let me use an example. Look at verse 8. The 2nd angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. Do you see that? Now, can you just keep your finger there and jump over with me to Revelation chapter 16? Now, Revelation chapter 16 is all about the plagues and what the 7 angels who have the plagues do. And I want you to notice something. That it says there, and I want you to look at verse 3. It says there, the 2nd angel, now remember we just said the 2nd angel sounded his trumpet. Now we have the 2nd angel poured out his bowl on the sea. So there's something happening. I want you to notice. Let's go back to verse 10 of chapter 8. You must follow me. Verse 10 in chapter 8. The 3rd angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of water. I want you to notice that. So the other one was on the sea. Now we're on 1/3 of the waters and the springs of water. Go back to Revelation chapter 16 and look at the 3rd angel that is now doing his thing. It says there, the 3rd angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and the springs of water. There's familiarity or similarity between what the trumpets are doing and what the plague is about. But I want you to notice that the purpose of the trumpets is not for destruction, but they are seen as plagues. But the purpose of the plagues is for destruction. Are you with me? But the problem is, this is what I want you to take notice of, is that although we see here a kind of distinction between the two. We've got the trumpets blowing, and then in Revelation 16 we've got the plagues falling. Something is happening. Okay. Now I want you to notice that we open up to the fourth trumpet. Then in Revelation 9 we open the fifth trumpet, and we open the sixth trumpet. Do you understand? But then all of a sudden, in Revelation chapter 10, there's got nothing to do with the trumpets anymore. And we're introduced to this angel who stands with the scroll open in his hand. And then he does something that's so interesting. It says, he planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And he gave a loud shout like the roar of a lion. The Lion of Judah. A loud shout like the roar of a lion. When he shouted, the voices of the seven thunders. Now the seven thunders are again another story, but they are found in the presence of God. And the seven thunders, who have now seen what is written in the scroll, who understand that, make a comment. They say something. But then a voice from heaven, now that voice from heaven is who? It's the Father. How do we know that? When Jesus was on earth and he comes out of the water, it says a voice from heaven said, "This is my son." Now right here we see already the involvement of God in what's going on. We have the Lamb standing with the scroll open in his hand. We have him placing his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and he cries out. And he cries out, and I want you to notice that there will be no more delay. Now, what is the delay that he's talking about? That there will be no more delay. And then he says there, and I want you to notice this, there will be no more delay. Now, we've just heard that the seven thunders spoke. But God from heaven says to John, don't write that down. It's almost as if that information is not for our ears. And I wondered to myself, why? They saw something that we need to see. Do you understand that? They said it. It's almost like if I told you that, then you don't have to worry about looking for yourself. But already we know that the seven trumpets are blowing. 6 have been sounded. Have you heard what they say, dear friends? Because the interesting thing, it says in verse 6, the last part, it says there will be no more delay. Verse 7, but in the days, it didn't say in the day. Did you hear that? But in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet. So what do we gather from this? Has the angel sounded his trumpet? No, he's about to. Now the interesting thing, the seventh trumpet is related to the coming of Christ in the clouds of heaven. Remember, it says that you'll come with a trumpet sound. I can show that. So it says before the seventh angel sounds his trumpet, which is the announcement of the coming of Christ, the mystery of God will be accomplished. What is the mystery of God? It's the information that we find written that has been pronounced. It's the sixth angel that has been giving his information to the world. But what is that mystery of God? It says that the mystery of God will be accomplished. That means it finally will be finished. Just as he announced it to his servants, the prophets. Now I want to ask you this. What is the mystery that needs to be accomplished? The mystery of God. Now it's interesting that in the writings, again we're talking about the New Testament writings, the word mystery is revealed 23 or up to 27 times. But it's mentioned more in the book of Ephesians than it is mentioned in the others. The mystery of God here we find, but it's revealed more in the book of Ephesians. Now, what I've tried to do today is to let you understand that you are the last people, and that you are the people that need to understand what was written in the scroll. Because only when you understand what is written in the scroll and the purpose of the scroll will you understand what is the mystery of God that has finally been accomplished. Now, I really hope I've perked your interest now, because I'm not going to tell you what the mystery of God is. But the next time I am here, I'm going to tell you what the mystery of God is. But God is busy at this moment, dear friends. But the thing that concerns me is that while the mystery of God is being accomplished, we are going to be moving like an overlapping to the outpouring of the plagues. And you won't be able to distinguish when the one has stopped and the one has started, because they are so similar in what happens. But remember that the purpose of the trumpets is for salvation, but the purpose of the plagues is for destruction. Now you, as God's child, need to have the mystery of God accomplished in you in order not to experience the plagues. Are you interested in knowing what the mystery of God is? I'll see you next time.